This is Mizutsune. This is me. And this is my story. I had never played a Monster Hunter game before, but this update gave me a perfect opportunity. So I set myself a challenge. Could a total noob like me beat some of the hardest bosses in this game with only a longsword? So for the first challenge, I decided to take down these two monsters, the Balahara and the Quematrice, and my idea was to first go for the Quematrice because I thought that this was going to be simple, right? Because this guy only usually has one thing to look out for, that is his tail. So I started with a sneak attack, and then my main idea was to dodge the tail as much as possible, and hopefully I would get the job done. Now I had practiced the 4-side slash before, but unfortunately I couldn't get it to work properly until this one time. From what I understood, the primary strategy would be for me to attack the monster's weak points and wounds and sever parts, or try to cause the monster as much damage as possible. Now the other two key moves for this long sword combo that would come in handy are the rising slash and the combo after that, and the special sheath. Now these are all moves which are pretty hard for me to execute as I am a complete noob, and that's why I had spent considerable amount of time training before I tried this challenge. Now the longsword is probably one of the easiest ones to master. I think so. I haven't really mastered it yet, but as you can see here, a single wrong move from me could get me killed. And thus I had to be very cautious about what I was doing with my moves, and primarily I tried to take out this guy's tail because without his tail he loses most of its power. But even without this tail, the main goal was to basically hit, then dodge, hit, then dodge. I wanted to finish this fight as soon as possible, but I also didn't want to get hit like at all, because I think I can only take 2 hits from this guy and then I die, because I have no armor, so there is no protection helping me. The other thing which I wanted to use is basically use the terrain and the traps in the terrain to basically trap the monsters so that I can have some free time where I can do as much damage as possible. And with that, I had just killed the first monster, which is the Quematrice, and was ready to move on to the Balahara. Now this guy was going to be a difficult fight than the last one, because the Quematrice is fast but not as fast as the Balahara. Because this guy is known for his fast moves and sudden trajectory changes. See, even this guy's tail is quite dangerous. I needed to be on my toes at all times, otherwise this was going to be a much difficult fight. Now because also this guy is so thin, I kept missing my combos on this guy. I tried to do the special sheath maneuver there, but I failed, as you can see there. Now the safest portion to attack this guy is from his sides, because his mouth and the tail are the most dangerous parts. And with that, I had just accumulated my second death. It's because whenever I am low on health, I try to get away from the monster as soon as possible, but sometimes the sacred doesn't come on time. So if I get even one extra hit, then I die immediately. The other thing is, if you can do enough damage to a monster fast, then there's a chance to incapacitate them, and that's when you can do more damage to them. Also, my feline friend here has a sleep affinity on his weapon, so he can sometimes get the monster to fall asleep. But me being a noob, I was not aware of this fact, and I should have done more damage here with either the big barrel bombs or something like that. But I played it like a stupid guy and I tried attacking him, and obviously I didn't make much of the opportunity which was presented. But slowly I will learn from this and remember it in my future hunts. The other thing I need to keep my focus on was the blade sharpness, because as my weapon sharpness decreased, then my damage also decreased over time. So I had to make sure that I was also getting my weapon sharpened, and like you see here, my feline friend was actually helping me out a lot with the shock traps, the heals. The other thing is, on water this guy is actually slower than he is on sand compared to other monsters who are actually weaker on the sand than in water. Now this is another traditional move that this guy does, is hang himself from these ledges, and you have to be quick and take down the ledges as soon as possible. So here you see I flashed him and then I took down the pillar on top of him. So there you get some more damage, and hopefully that is enough to basically kill him. Because as you saw, after a few hits, he had finally died and my first challenge was complete. I was really ecstatic with this because I had done it with only 2 deaths and the first try. However, the future challenges were going to be much more difficult, even more difficult than I would have imagined. Okay, so for this challenge, I had to take down the Chatacabra, and I did exactly what I did last time. Started off with a sneak attack because I wanted to do as much damage as possible. And I thought that this guy was going to be easier than the last 2 guys because this guy is fat and bulky, which means that his moves are not so fast. But if he hits, I am probably dead because also he's of a higher level. Now fortunately the weather was also favoring me, because as you saw right there, the thunder literally hit him and caused some damage. Now as you can see here, I died, but my feline definitely got my back. Also made the monster fall asleep, but I was again unable to use this opportunity to my advantage. Okay, so another main weakness that this guy has is usually his backside. So if you attack his back, it's usually safer and a wound can develop pretty easily there. Also, like when he does this big slam move, his tongue becomes exposed, which is also a weak point that he has. So if you exploit the blue wounds, then you usually get the monster scales, which could be used as a projectile to hurt the monster more again later on. Yeah, so see these big moves, those are the ones that I had to dodge, otherwise I would die immediately. So just exploiting the wounds and doing as much damage as possible, and hopefully avoiding any possible damage from him. That is my entire strategy. So also in this combo there is a long iframe, so usually I'm safer from the big moves that he does. So that's why I feel more confident in going closer to the monster when I'm doing the combo, if I can execute it properly. Now here I was trying to pull off a jump off attack, but unfortunately he got me, and yeah, I died and I had to start again. Now the flash flags here form a nice trap for him where I could just basically flash him, and then he has just no idea where I am and randomly attacks, and this is my perfect opportunity to do the damage necessary. So this challenge was feeling a bit easier for me compared to the last one, because I think that the faster monsters are more of a problem than the slower and hard-hitting ones, because the slower ones are more predictable, and this was something worrying for me because I knew that Mizutsune was going to be super fast. So with this now, I had completed this challenge also, and I would say that this challenge feels easier than the last one, and now I was ready to move on to my final challenge, which was my fight with the Mizutsune. Okay, so finally I was here. Finally I was facing off against Mizutsune with no armor and only a longsword as a weapon. And firstly I wanted to see all of his moves and techniques and see which moves I should watch out for and what his pattern looked like. Now I have to say that this fight seemed easy, but since I had no armor, it meant that even if I made just one mistake, I would have to start all over again. So I was trying to use the tactics which I learned from the Balahara, where I was trying to stay towards the middle of Mizutsune, avoiding both the tail and the head. But this guy was much faster than the Balahara. Also, the lower this guy's health gets, the more erratic his movements become. Then I got my first death. But that was the beginning of the torture which I was going to face. Because after that, it was one death after another, until I had seen the quest failed screen so many times that I was almost starting to lose my mind. It was easy to get the Mizutsune to stage 2, but getting him to stage 3 was really difficult, and by this time I hadn't even seen it even once. Until up to 3 hours of continuous playing, I was finally at a decent enough point, and I had seen that Mizutsune turns Super Saiyan when he goes into his so when you bring his health down to a certain limit, he goes into a Super Saiyan form, which is completely bonkers because everything turns on fire and he just attacks massively from every single direction.
Moving to a new area.
So I started using the terrain, I started doing more combos, and then I will show you what happens after this.
Perfectly blundered. Yes, great form. Almost there.
Everything I had learned in my previous fights, during the training, the foresight moves, everything that I had learned, I put into this last final effort. Yes! 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 Finally! Finally I did it! Yes! Finally! No armors! No armor! No armor! So finally, Mizutsune was defeated and my challenges were complete. If you want to see the next challenges with Zoshia without any armor, subscribe to see more.